Hi, good evening, everyone. Oh my gosh, thank you for your patience. You know, we're so fortunate to be here in this wonderful theater, but you know, still post-COVID hybrid presentations present a bit of a problem. So thank you so much for waiting. For those town committee members who haven't made their way down here to my left, please make your way because we will need you for voting matters. Hi, my name is Andrea Gartner. I'm the chair of the Danbury Democrats. Thank you all for coming this evening. What I'd like to do, though, is open our meeting with a moment of silence for former Councilman John Esposito. He was laid to rest yesterday. John ended his days in Danbury as the longest continually serving councilman in our history. So just half a minute or so of moment of silence for John. Thank you. So again, good evening. I have to tell you that I am so happy to be a Danbury Democrat. I'm happy to be here tonight with fellow Danbury Democrats in this theater, a jewel on our main street, filled with all of you because you care so much about our city. It's a privilege to be among people who aren't afraid to ask the hard questions instead of making cutesy videos, who know that we need to be invested in our community rather than couch surfing our way to our next political opportunity. And most of all, we don't show up with a mindset of how Danbury and City Hall can serve us or serve a next political horizon or feather the nest of a circle of cronies. Instead, we have been showing up and we show up with an attitude of what can I do? And really, what can we do to serve Danbury and to serve our residents? In the past 4 years, we have seen what 5 strong Danbury delegation can accomplish in Hartford. Our legislators who have joined us today, State Senator Julie Kushner has joined us via Zoom. Bob Godfrey in the 110th, Dave Arconti in the 109th, and Ken Gunker in the 138th. And we also have Ellie Brennan in the second. They have brought back to us more funding than Danbury has seen in decades. Only 2 short years ago, Only 2 short years ago, a combination of ongoing grassroots efforts and really hard work coalescing around our ticket, we emerged through Herculean efforts as bronze Olympians in 2019. I say this because we achieved the highest minority representation of city council members by doubling the Democrats on the council to 10. And we gained majorities in both the Board of Ed and Zoning Commission. And what do bronze Olympians do when they find themselves back in the arena. They go for the gold. Ladies and gentlemen, the July nominating meeting of the Danbury Democratic Town Committee at 7:28. His Honor, the former and last Democratic Mayor Dean of Danbury, Jean Eric, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? We have a flag right here.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God.
Frank Salvatore, our ward captain and the 3rd and city council member, please go take the roll.
Dennis Perkins. He's on the thing. Joan Belizna. Present. Ken Gucker. Present. Tanya Clark. Present. Helena E. Kate Johnson's on the phone. I didn't see Carol up there yet. Farley Sandy Sanchez. Roberto Alves. Present. And John Guglieltino. Here. Rich Molinaro. Is she on the screen? Okay. Lucian Gilson.
All right. Do I have a motion for constable, for the slate of constables? Helena. Thank you. Aye. All those opposed by acclamation, we have Emil Kaladarsi, also known as Butch Kaladarsi, as our constable. Butch, I think I saw you come in. If you could please stand and be recognized. Thank you for running. Next, we have zoning commission alternate members. Do I have a motion for zoning commission alternates? Yes, Henry Hall.
I would like to nominate Olga and
Okay, we have 2 names being presented for alternates. Is there a second?
Second.
Acclamation, Olga Mejia and Zusagar are our zoning alternate candidates. Olga and Zeus, if you could stand to be recognized. Thank you for running. And I think what I'll do for the zoning commission regular members, we have 9 members. As your name is called, if you could stand. Do I have nominations for zoning commission? Molly Anderson.
Madam Chair, I would like to nominate Sydney Almeida, Theodore Haddad Jr., Ryan Hawley, Sonia Havasi, Wes Johnson, Richard Dowdy, Nelson Merchant, Larry Morgan, and Jolie Ospina.
Thank you. Larry's joining us via video. Is there a second for this slate? A second. All those in favor? Aye. By acclamation. Thank you, zoning commission members. It's wonderful to see a full slate. Board of Education. Do I have a nomination for the Board of Education?
Madam Chair, for the Board of Education, I would like to nominate the following: Louisa Britton, Jean Reveau, and Joseph De Silva Jr.
Yes, if those nominees could please stand. Is there a second? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye. 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 And by acclamation. Thank you, zoning Board of Education. We will now, under our rules for our nominating meeting, nominate the city council by ward. Our town committee is comprised of 4 members from each of the wards, and it's these 4 Democratic town committee members that nominate and vote on the candidates for those wards. We will start with the first ward.
I would like to nominate Dennis Perkins and Chris Lewis.
Thank you. Could Dennis and Chris please stand? Board member. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Joan. All those on the first ward who can vote?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you to the Ward 1 candidates, Dennis and Chris Lewis. Ward 2.
Madam Chair, I rise to nominate my good friends Bernie Gale and Helena Brontes to run in the second ward for the council.
Helena and Bernie, if you could stand. Is there a second from the second ward? Tanya has a second for those nominees. All those in the second ward in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Thank you, Helena and Bernie. Ward 3, Frank Salvatore. Oh, you're nominated. You are.
Madam Chair, I'm just going to have Kate Johnson unmute herself because she's the second on the Zoom. Madam Chair, I rise and would like to nominate Molly Anderson Diker and Cheryl Duva in the great third ward for this year's candidates.
I second their nomination.
Thank you, Kate. Your second nomination. All those in the third ward in favor?
Aye.
Congratulations, Molly and Cheryl. In the fourth ward,
Madam Chair, I, Sandy Santos, would like to nominate Farley Santos and Joe Britton for the fourth ward city council.
thank you. Joe and Farley, you could stand. And is there a second? Second by Louisa. Fourth ward, signify by saying aye. Congratulations, Joe and Farley. In the fifth ward,
Madam Chair,
yes.
I rise to nominate fellow councilmen and friends Dennis Perkins and Travis Conti. Dwayne Perkins.
Dwayne and Fred, if you could rise, please. Second from Joe Silva. All those in favor from the fifth ward, aye, signify by saying aye. Congratulations. In the sixth ward, Henry.
Madam Chair, I rise to nominate our fine incumbents, Paul Taylor Rotella and Ben Cheney's.
Paul Rotella and then Cheney. Those in favor of the sixth ward, signify aye. Congratulations, Paul and Ben. And the seventh ward,
Madam Chair, I rise to nominate Rich Molinaro and Wilson Hernandez.
Rich and Wilson. Second from you. Okay, with the second. All those in favor from the seventh ward for Rich and Wilson, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Congratulations, Wilson.
Aye.
We now have our city council at large, which we will nominate as a full slate. Also, if you could rise when your name is called.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's my pleasure to place in the nomination of the following individuals: Helen Van Dyke Bell, David Cardoso, T. William McAllister, Sylvia Merlin, Frank Salvatore Jr., Gary Small, Robert Taversack.
Amazing. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
By acclamation, congratulations, city council nominees. At this time, I'm going to yield the floor to my vice chairman so he can continue the meeting.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Before we move on with the meeting, one thing, candidates, please don't leave the end of the night with paperwork for you guys. This time I'll entertain a nomination for the office of town clerk. I'm sorry, what?
Mr. Vice Chair.
Yes,
I rise to nominate Andrea Gardner as our candidate for town clerk.
thank you.
Second.
Thank you. My apologies, I couldn't see you. Are there any other further nominations? Further nominations? If there's no further nominations, nominations are closed. We'll entertain a vote. All those in favor of Andrea Gardner as our candidate for town clerk, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
None, the motion carries. Andrea, thank you. This time, I'd like to entertain a motion for nominations for the office of city treasurer. Mr. Britton.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. I would like to nominate Mr. Henry Hall for the office of City Treasurer.
Thank you. The nomination is Mr. Henry Hall for the office of city treasurer. Do I hear a second?
Second.
There's a second by Mr. Salvatore. Are there any other nominations for city treasurer? Are there any nominations? Are there any other nominations? Seeing none, the nominations are closed. All those in favor of the nomination of Henry Hall to be the Democratic Party's candidate for the city treasurer, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, seeing none, the motion carries. Congratulations, Henry, and thank you. I get the sense that now is what everybody seems to have been waiting for. It is my pleasure to entertain nominations for the office of mayor, Democratic candidate for the office of mayor for the city of Danbury. I will recognize Andrea Gartner for purposes of that nomination.
Thank you, Joe. It's my honor to be in front of you as a candidate for town clerk and of course as the chairman of the Danbury Democrats at this auspicious and necessary time. Make no mistake about it, the values we hold as Democrats matter more now than they ever have. They matter in our city, they matter at the state level, and they most definitely matter for our country. Every day we have the opportunity to ensure that the rule of law is followed, human rights and freedom of the press are respected and not violated. Every day we encourage others to participate in active political processes. Every day we have the opportunity to further these values. I thank each candidate and I thank the families and friends who lend their support because together we are doing our part to move our community forward. Thank you to my fellow Democratic Town Committee members, our current electeds, and state and federal leaders for helping our country move forward too. Some of us already know, and some of us will experience for the first time, the challenges of running for public office. From today on, in differing degrees, we will be experiencing the uncertainty, the risks, the exposure that define what it means to put yourself on the ballot and put yourself out there. And without question, putting ourselves out there means there's a far greater risk of getting criticized or feeling hurt, and we will be vulnerable for this reason. Yes, we will be vulnerable. But in a world where never enough, just look at our private space launches in the last week, dominates, and where feeling afraid has become second nature for too many. Being vulnerable is almost subversive, because in truth, vulnerability is not a weakness. Arguably, the truth of the matter is that vulnerability is our most accurate measure of courage, because when we step back and examine our lives, we will find that nothing is as comfortable or regretful as standing on the outside, looking in and wondering, what if we had had the courage to step up and step into what makes us vulnerable. A favorite quote from Teddy Roosevelt, our 26th president, and he said it best. It's not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong one stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the one who actually is in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at worst, if he fails, at least he fails while daring greatly. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the year that the Danbury Democrats build on the successes we've had. Successes in 2017 elections, 2018, 2019, 2020, and starting today, July 20th, 2021, we will dare ever more and even more greatly to build an even better Danbury for us all. I ask you, who better to lead us into that arena than the candidate I am nominating as the next mayor of our great city of Danbury, Roberto Alves.
This time, the chair would like to recognize Councilman Farley Santos for purposes of the second.
my fellow Danbury Democrats, it's my privilege to second the nomination of Roberto Alves as our party's standard bearer, our candidate for mayor of the city we all love. There is no one with a stronger work ethic, determination, and passion for Danbury than Roberto. His story is Danbury's story. His values are our values: love of family, love of community, and service to others. I've gotten to know Roberto, the person who led a team of new candidates several election cycles ago to reinvigorate our party and to run hard on the ideals we hold for a better Danbury. The councilman who doesn't hide from the tough fights, who consistently seeks transparency for our residents, and who wants to achieve positive results for the same. He continues to do that. I've gotten to know Roberto the man, the loving dad and husband, son, and loyal friend. You see, Roberto is the kind of person you want on your side, the person who in your darkest moments is there for you with a helping hand. His many texts and calls of reassurance lifted me up during a dire time. But the interesting thing is that I'm not the only person here who has benefited from knowing Roberto and benefited from being his friend. His compassion for others is inspiring. We've knocked on thousands of doors for our party, and we will knock thousands more this cycle because we deserve a mayor who truly represents Danbury values. We deserve a mayor who has lived the struggles that working families in Danbury face every day. One who is in touch with the needs of our community. We need a mayor with the audacity to strive for more and to be better. We need a mayor who is with ideas and creative thinking for the future, not a rehash of past failures. It's time to hit the refresh button. It's time to have a mayor who represents us, who exemplifies the diversity and potential of our city. We need a mayor with sound judgment, fortitude to make a better Danbury for all. We need a mayor who has lived the Danbury experience. Roberto is the Danbury experience. I am incredibly proud to second the nomination of the next mayor of the city of Danbury, Roberto Alves. Thank you.
And right now, I'd like to bring up Vice Chairman Joe DeSilva for another second.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've done this before, not on this stage, but on other stages. But I don't think I've ever been more excited to stand before a body of Danbury Democrats for purposes of a nominating speech. I am so excited to second the nomination of my friend Roberto Alves tonight. I love Danbury. I have spent my entire life in Danbury. In fact, for a while, I rented an apartment in this very building upstairs. I cannot think of anybody better to lead us because Danbury is at a crossroads. Danbury is a great city to live and raise a family in. That's why my wife and I are raising our children here. It's why Roberto and his wife chose to raise their children here. But that doesn't mean that we are a city without challenges. Every city has challenges. Danbury does too. But these challenges can be met, but only with a leader who is willing to acknowledge they exist. Grasping those challenges and seeing the opportunities before us. We need a mayor who understands that we need a city where young families can grow their families, and the parents and their grandparents can afford to stay here and not be priced out of town. We need a mayor capable of understanding that we need to grow good jobs in our city and especially in our downtown. We need a mayor capable of understanding that we need to invest in our schools because a quality education is not just good for the city of Danbury, good for our property taxes, good to grow business. It's a moral obligation we owe the children of the city of Danbury, and the city of Danbury has been failing that for too long. We need a mayor who will change that. We need a mayor capable of understanding that investments in our infrastructure, our roads, our bridges are not only a good idea,
They're a good idea for business. They're a good idea for growth. They're a good idea for the future of Danbury. We deserve roads that don't rival the surface of the moon, not just because it's better to drive on them, but because it's good for other things. It's good for the development of the city. Mostly we need as Farley said, we need a leader who understands the challenges Danbury families face and who wants to help them move forward and help this city move forward. I could not be more excited than I am tonight to nominate second the nomination of my friend Roberto Alves to be the next mayor of the city of Danbury.
Danbury Democratic Town Committees, all those in favor for nominating Roberto Alves as our next mayor of Danbury, signify aye. By acclamation.
Aye.
I like the next mayor of the city of Danbury, Roberto Alves.
Woohoo!
Hey, everybody. So, que lo que? Where's my friend? Hola a todos. I'm so honored to be here today, and I'm so thankful to have everybody's support. But I just wanted to take a minute to recognize some people who, without them, this wouldn't happen. First, it's my wife, Robin, my son, Julius, my daughter, Catalina, my sister, Kelly, my sister, Liana, who couldn't make it tonight, my mother, Izada, and my father, Augusto. Obrigado, thank you. I'm proud to be here with so many Democratic officials and others who will join the ranks of elected officials on November 2nd. But as I stand here tonight, I can't help but wonder how we all got here. Not how we drove, if we walked, not how we physically got here, but how we got here. I'm talking about what led each of us here to the point where we knew we wanted to make a difference, get involved. Each person here tonight has a vision of what they want to accomplish on behalf of our community. And every one of us shares common viewpoints and common goals, influenced by our individual experiences that we have shared in Danbury. And I'm proud tonight to be among you to accept your nomination to be the next mayor of Danbury, Connecticut.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
So personally, I don't have a singular defining moment or catalyst that I can point to where I can say, that's when I knew I needed to get involved. And it was a culmination of a lot of things going back to my childhood. I grew up in a neighborhood not too far from here, but right up on Sheridan Street. Used to walk to the movie theater. And my parents, when they immigrated here from Danbury when I was 5 years old, one of the first things they wanted to do is they enrolled us in schools because they understood the value of a good education. And when I started in kindergarten, I was put in the ESL class. And my teacher, Miss Andrade, she spoke Portuguese. She's one of the reasons I'm standing here today. I was a kid who came to a new place. I didn't know the language. I didn't speak any English. And I was treated a little differently by some. But Miss Andrade and other teachers like her, they listened to me. And that helped me find my voice. And you know, it means something when you know your voice has been heard. When someone listens, but I mean when they really listen, you can tell because they understand you too. It's how you build relationships, trust, transparency, and it's how you build coalitions. And Danbury's leaders haven't been in the business of transparency, trustworthiness, listening, or coalition building for a long time. This lack of leadership and understanding is evident in our daily lives. It's written in the cracks and potholes of our unkept roads. It's reflected on our flood-prone streets on rainy days. It haunts our empty storefronts right out here. And every year it's codified by the third floor of City Hall. You just have to look at the city's budget to see how different the third floor's priorities are from all of us in this room tonight. It's a failure of leadership. We've been shortchanged for 2 decades and we've been delusioned. We've seen how other cities in Connecticut have forged their paths with entertainment, downtown small businesses, grand list growth, good roads, schools, great property values. And if you take a snapshot of some of these communities, you look at the Norwalk, Middletown on a Saturday night at 8 p.m. and compare it to a Saturday night in Danbury, you can see the differences from a mile away. And it's time we stop asking ourselves why things are why they are. It's time we get to where we want them and need them to be. We need a fresh approach. So let's talk about how we get there and what the vision is for our city. And that's got to start with our kids, because education is everything. And you heard me talk a minute ago about my experience as a kid, and I'm a product of a good education through the Danbury schools. But our schools as they stand, they need change. Not just small changes. We also need big, significant changes. We know what happens when we don't pay enough attention to our schools. We've seen overcrowding and what it does. Because of overcrowding, our kids couldn't have gone back to school full time when the COVID numbers were dropping in the spring. We've seen the superintendent submit a $1.3 million emergency funding request to the state 3 weeks after the start of the school year because of underfunding and poor planning. We've seen teachers, parents, students all standing together, calling on City Hall, begging for our schools to be properly funded. Over time, Danbury schools have been refused over $45 million in funding. We're ranked dead last, 169 out of 169 in cities and out of cities and towns in Connecticut in our per pupil expenditure. We're dead last. Danbury shouldn't be dead last in anything. You know, when my wife Robin was pregnant with our son Julius, we did what every parent does. We started looking at the schools, and we realized Danbury schools were underfunded. But both of us grew up here. Robin's family has been here for ages. Her grandfather actually served as the city treasurer. But we knew the benefits that came along with living and growing up here. And we wanted to invest in the community we grew up in. So there isn't a single reason our city can't change the way it funds our schools and responds to its needs, the concerns of parents, teachers, staff, and administrators. There isn't a single reason our kids should be disadvantaged before they graduate high school by the city they live in, because the people in leadership aren't listening. There isn't a single reason why we can't strategically look at the way we allocate resources while keeping our taxes down. We're gathered in this room tonight because we know this isn't right. We know what it looks like when a city, and we are a city, needs improvements from the ground up. So when I talk about building a better Danbury together, I really do mean that. We can build a better Danbury together from the ground up. There's a woman who lives on Dartmouth Lane who reached out to me recently, and she said that Eversource had done some work on the gas lines in her neighborhood. And by the time they had finished and packed up their equipment, Dartmouth Lane was in worse condition than when they started. So she called the city. She called the city in hopes that at the very least, her road can be the point it was before, in the better condition than it was now. Can anyone guess what the city told her? No. They said this isn't Greenwich or New Canaan. You get what you pay for. Now, I don't know about you, but I certainly don't think it's too rich to ask to have your roads fixed. It's not too rich to drive down Main or West Street on a day that it's raining, hope that you can drive on the right side of the road so you can get from point A to point B without worrying that you're going to cause an accident or worried about driving in something so deep you're worried about your engine flooding. So I grew up experiencing inequities, inequalities that came from a lack of middle class. People couldn't afford basics. When I was growing up, a lot of them still can't. 50% of Danbury is still struggling to make ends meet. We can change that. I'm sorry, because this means a lot to me. There are people, half of Danbury is struggling, and there's no other way to point it at this point. But Danbury is ripe for the picking. For retail, small business throughout our city, we are ideally and geographically positioned to be a social, economic, and entertainment hub for the region. But we can't do it without getting out of our own way. We can't let that be a roadblock in doing this, because when we talk about the issues our city faces or the improvements we want to see, big or small, they gaslight us. We are an integral part of this conversation. We know better because we live these experiences every day. So there's a bigger picture at play here. We're here because we want to be a part of writing Danbury's future together. There's a huge responsibility that comes along with that. And in some ways, it's similar to the duty of being a parent. As a parent, it's your job to look out for the safety, the health, education, and well-being of your kids. I'm running for mayor because I feel the same sense of duty to our city. And it's the reason that after I became a parent, I dialed into the pulse of our city, and I saw a lot of the same inequities and struggles and the literal cracks in the bedrock of our city that have been there since I was 5. I couldn't just continue knowing that there was a world where I could do something about it. So I grabbed my clipboard, I grabbed the pen, and I ran my heart out for city council, and we won. And now a few years later, here we all are at the Palace Theater talking about how we can move our city forward. Everybody here is invested in building a new shared future as part of the Danbury community. And what distinguishes us from the stat quo is that we know what it's like not to have a voice. And we know what it looks like when the majority is stifled by the few in power. And we're here to change that once and for all. So I want to thank you all for your support, your trust, your time. And I'm going to ask you to build a better Danbury arm in arm. So let's grab our clipboards, let's grab our pens, let's get out there. I'm incredibly honored to have your support, your confidence in me. We got a big job to do. We're going to do it right now. Thank you to the Danbury Democrats. Thank you to everybody in this room. Thank you to my family. If you want to come up here and say hi to everybody, I am so immensely grateful. Go fight, win.
Very. Congratulations, Roberto and family, on the nomination. Okay, we still have a meeting to conclude with no further business before us. I do want to remind candidates, we have a form for you to sign. Please go to the lobby and look for our Vice Chair, Joe DeSilva, if you haven't signed that form yet. We're also convening very informally down at Pippa's Sports Cafe. That's 114 South Street. Please join us. And I will hear a motion for an adjournment. So moved. A second.
Second.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor for adjournment at 8 o'clock on this auspicious evening, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Yay.